Welcome to the Priority Lane podcast, the show where we explore the power of prioritizing and how real growth can be achieved by doing less but doing it better. I'm your host, Nigel Catt, and each episode I sit down with successful people to uncover how they filter out the noise and focus on what really matters. Today on the podcast, we're joined by Andrew Romeo from Aerion Technologies. How are you today, Andrew?
Yeah, really good, Nigel. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm usually on the other end running the DevReady podcast, but yeah, it's good fun to sit on the other side and answer a couple of questions.
Great. Well, I'm dealing with a professional, so that's fantastic to hear.
Somewhat. Somewhat.
So, do you want to give a bit of background of who Andrew Romeo is and how you've come to this point?
Yeah, perfect. So who I am, I've been running a software development company for 18 years, coming on 18 years in March. Started it at the age of 23, back at uni, just rolled out of uni and went into our own little startup, as you call it at the time. Probably wasn't as popular to jump into tech startups at the time, so we started a software business. Over the journey, built some products, have some products in pharmacy that we run and operate, as well as in medical space, and just been custom building. So we run a team of close to 50 people now across the organization, building a lot of custom products, end-to-end mobile apps, helping business process automation, as well as serving people with driving new customers. So, yeah, been having a lot of fun. The world's changing in tech. It's a lot of AI driving a lot of change, as we all have seen and consumed. It's impacting our business and every other business that's around us, really.
Okay, so this is the same business you started.
One business, so there's a couple now. So there's Aerion, there's Shopfront, which is a standalone, which is a product that spun out of Aerion. That's the pharmacy product. We acquired another business, which is called LabBase 2 years ago now, which is in the medical space, which is a SaaS product.
Okay.
And then we're spinning out our own little AI product as well. So over the journey, developed other offerings and services, but yeah, same business, still developing and supporting clients with custom applications, and it's evolved over time. The business is not the same as it was 18 years ago. It's evolved considerably over that period.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask. So your
Mm,
priorities and your vision when you first started, when you were
mm,
23 to now,
yeah,
how have they
yeah,
changed and evolved?
yeah. Well, at the time, it was a group of there was 5 of us at uni that sort of started this business. There's 2 of us left now, so we've brought out all other little partners and bits and pieces. But at the beginning, it was set up as a games tech, educational tech company. So we were supporting some clients like VSEC, which is the Victorian Space Science Education Centre. We did quite a bit of work in there, and GTAC is Gene Science Education in Vic. There are a couple of specialty science centres that we did quite a lot of work in simulation tools around how to run a mission to Mars and educate kids in probably that year 9 to 12 bracket. And that was a really fun time in the first couple of years of business. We started to realise that education probably didn't have as much money to fund the growth of the business. We started venturing into other opportunities just through a network, really. And it evolved into supporting some people in the engineering space, where we started building out applications in that world. And that turned us into a little bit more enterprise mid-tier offerings, and that evolved from there. But in the end, we help non-techs build great tech. That's where we've landed as a business, and that's not where we started. The world of technology is quite complex, but 86% of projects fail over time, over budget, or the complete wrong solution. And we do our best within the DevReady process to ensure we de-risk a project at the front. So that learning's come over failures within business and within projects. A critical failure of ours was a company, big multinational global organization that we worked with over 10, 12 years ago now. And that started DevReady, where we basically worked through with one stakeholder, and that already rings alarm bells in my mind now, and basically built a product for him. He was a marketing guy sitting in Melbourne, wanted to productize what was a touchscreen application at the time for third world countries. Great idea. Great concept. We had a Leap Motion, which was state-of-the-art tech at the time, which was like a gesture sensor piece of technology. And then
Okay.
from there, Yeah, it was. Yeah, you waved your hands on it. You'd be able to pick up gestures, touches, points. Really clever. So we can turn any screen into a touchscreen app. It's a great, novel idea. However, really didn't get any traction. So we built something over a period of time. Got no traction or buy-in when he took it to a conference. And I sat there with Anthony, and Gordon was a critical team member at the time. He's left the business now, and said, "Okay, we're going to build tech, or we're going to build tech that people actually need, want, desire." So we started what was a DevReady process then, and that continues to iterate over time as to how do we protect the interest or de-risk as much as we can to really save face, to support clients, to reduce outcomes that are really going to matter and make a difference. So that's probably where the business is moving towards now and continue to evolve to. And it's always an iterative improvement, really.
Okay, okay. There's a couple of points there, but before I get onto that, you mentioned about
Mm.
AI. You're talking
Yes.
about where this is going to go in the future. How do you see AI impacting your business and the wider
Mm.
industry?
Well, we're seeing it impacts already. We're able to do more with less right now as a business. Just for me, I sit more in the early stage consulting and product consulting. So research is much easier.
Right.
Open up deep research. ChatGPT is where I mostly use. Run some deep research on product areas, etc. So the product consulting space has shifted. Over the journey, we've built our own tool that helps us with design, which is called DevReady AI, which we haven't really commercialized. It's more for us. People can play with
Mhm.
it and have a look at what we're attempting to do. But if the fact it is, we can now design a product in weeks, not months. That's how we frame it, where we can look at features, functions, look at UI and everything in between quite quickly and sped up process. So we're seeing a lot of efficiency come in because of AI. That's where, and then shifting into development now as well. So the market is changing, it's shifting, it's pivoting. We have people that are coming to us with a lovable prototype vibe coded, which means they're just chatting to basically an AI and helping me build something. And then we're picking it up, looking at the code, looking at the gaps and helping it commercialize it. So the market is shifting and there's different opportunities. I see it as a huge positive in terms of the space. It's opening up a lot more people to be able to do more. It's more for less, effectively. But
Right.
then you're opening up more inspiration in the space. Domain experts able to pick up, try things, build prototypes quickly with no tech knowledge, which is a huge bonus for people like us because then we can get really clear on what they're trying to achieve without having to unpack for months that we used to do to try and figure out where they were going with the products and now where they really want to take it. So we don't have to really get too deep in domain because we can see a vision in a prototype or in something they've already hacked together. So huge opportunity for everyone out there that's got ideas and concepts. And I see it as just a benefit to what we're doing as a business today. Future state, we're still unknown. AIs continue to evolve. I don't think we know what the end result is, but I know there's more efficiency in the space and it will continue to change. So we just got to be ready for it.
Right. Okay. So it's almost like the emergence of the internet again, where the internet spurned on a whole heap of, increased efficiencies, greater access
Mm.
to resources and information and knowledge. AI's sort of taking it to the next level again.
Yeah, probably a hundredfold of what the internet is in my mind. It's just an exponential jump and leap in terms of what is possible now to what the internet was back in the day. Ended up being Encyclopedia Britannica online type models, and these were the early starts of the internets.
Yep.
Now we can just search and get knowledge, or just ask a question, we get an answer, and the likelihood of that being correct is quite high now. So, yeah, it's a significant leap in terms of information and knowledge share.
Now, before we delve in any further, as you
Mm.
know, each episode we delve into history for a quirky historical fact for the month we're in, which happens to be February. And this episode, we're covering Steve Jobs, which I'm guessing you've heard of. You're familiar with Steve and
You
his
know a
work?
little bit about, as we all do, uh, Mr. Steve, and he's impacted our business significantly. Yes.
Well, yeah, yeah. So, hey, this is no coincidence. I've picked on Steve for this
Mm.
episode. So, Steve was born February 24, 1955, and who, of course, best known as for co-founder of Apple. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak incorporated Apple in 1977. They envisaged Apple as a company that would make personal computing accessible to everyone, not just technical experts. The Apple name came as a result of a visit to an apple orchard. Steve Jobs found the name fun, spirited, and not intimidating, and it also helped them appear before competitors like Atari in the phone book. You remember phone books?
I
Yep.
do remember phone books, that one by the phone with that little thing you used to dial and turn. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I remember those.
Skip
Uh,
forward 30 years, and on January 9, 2007, the first iPhone was unveiled. While the device initially featured only preloaded apps, its success and software capabilities created the market demand that led to the creation of the App Store the following year. The original App Store launched with 500 apps, including Facebook, eBay, New York Times, and a few games. And a whopping 10 million downloads took place within 3 days of the launch of the App Store. Not to be outdone, Google quickly followed with the launch of its Play Store for the Android market. By year end, globally, App Store downloads surpassed 100 million. So, Andrew, why do you think
it's
apps were
huge.
so successful from day one?
It became something that was just in your pocket. It more was beyond the app. It was the actual phone and the interface that changed the game in my mind. So we had a device that we could now touch and feel and made it easy for people to consume. Back in the day, we had the Windows. What they did was they wrapped up their desktop app or the desktop Windows and threw it on the phone. It was horrible to use. I
Yeah,
don't know if you had one of those phones. You had the
yeah,
little
yeah, I did. I
stylus. You had to
did.
try and click. So there was no change in interface. And this was the biggest shift, which opened up the opportunity for app stores. But then the clever part was they made a network and a community for others to actually build on and build for. So that was really where the success came, where they got distribution and channel of people bringing product to it. So, yes, they took 30% of the money that went through it. And I think that model changed over time anyway. But from the perspective of it was the device that changed and created the App Store in my mind. They learnt from iTunes and flew it all through. But yeah, the actual Apple phone changed the game and enabled the App Store to actually exist on the device. So the success was in what Apple did in the beginning. They their goal was to make personal computing accessible to everyone, and they took it to a device level, which is now like a personal computer in your hand anyway. So I
Yep.
think it was all UX and design which changed the game. That's what Apple was synonymous for, really.
Yeah, yeah. So, what do you see as the biggest changes or developments from these early apps to the ones we have today?
Oh, the early apps, and we were a part of that early app. But we took a year or two to figure out, is this thing real? But then we started making these garbage little games, which was we had a soccer app, which was I don't know, the name eludes me, but it wasn't very successful. It was successful around the World Cup though. It was like a soccer tapping app, and the ball sped up and got faster and faster, and that was our premise to all right, let's learn about what apps are and how to build one, deploy one. That was early venture, so we started building little games. That one had some, yeah, I think 100,000 plus downloads during one of the World Cups, which was ridiculous. But
Okay.
only some ad monetizing, which wasn't much in the end. But that's okay. But we learn a bit. We learn about all right, what is an app? What are people interested in? How do we potentially market it? How do we position it for up events? So we learned quite a bit from that experience. Um, but yeah, in terms of the apps have changed now to become, there's still a lot of noise on the App Store. The Apple App Store is very stringent in terms of what can get on an App Store these days. It was quite a bit easier to put anything up there. Now it's a lot more stringent. They want more quality coming through and not just junk, though you can still find some junk apps out there. In terms of the change, it was probably take it to the world of anything. It's like it's early days, so everyone's just going to have a go on a play, and they're becoming more
Yeah.
complex. And then we get big enterprise coming in, and you've got now games on the phone are like they were on the computer or PC, where they were really basic at the beginning. So once you get the early adoption, or yes, there's some traction here, there's a marketplace, then we get some bigger players coming in, VC funded apps, etc. They come in, so we're getting some more quality at the other end. But yeah, that's really the market's really matured. That's changed in terms of what's on the App Store.
So basically,
Mm.
being a fringe type market or technology to becoming mainstream and more sophisticated.
Yeah, it's all mainstream, correct. And you've got big players in the space that are building games now. Yeah, you're not really in a position where, and you've got technology that enables that got built. So the Unity components expand and evolve to become mobile. So all these things have been built to support enabling us to build better quality applications. So you get other providers to the market to improve the quality of the output just because it's mainstream and there's obviously commercial opportunity and benefit for everyone involved.
Okay. So let's talk about the projects that you work on that come across your desk.
Mm.
What's the main driver for these apps
Mm.
by their proponents? Is it to improve business process or value add to their client or a marketing initiative or something else or a mix of all the above?
All the above, I'd say. In the end, I break it down to in business, we're looking to either save time or make more money. And it's generally any technology should be supporting that initiative. It is a business outcome that we're looking to drive always. And yes, it's generally a marketing front end. How do we make more money? It can be a new product stream or revenue stream or a cost saving measure in terms of operations or efficiency gains. So it can be a mixture
Right.
of all of the above as well within applications. So it just really varies on what your business goal and objective is. Some technology is the business. So we've got apps that are effectively just the business and the sole source of revenue. So that
Mhm.
whole application supports the business model, and it runs the entirety of the business model. Where others are supporting an operation. So some are for bricks and mortar type service based businesses that help in operation. Good example of that one would be a group that we work with is an expanding franchise business called My Home. We've built an end to end platform that supports their operation from bookings, client communications, invoicing, and all the way through to supporting the cleaners that go out to residential homes, where to go, what to do next. So that's more of an operational efficiency game, where others are just end-to-end apps, which, for example, a good one is Locomate in pharmacy that we've developed, which is a mobile app, sits on the App Store, similar to Uber, but for pharmacy, which is effectively a solution where I need a temporary pharmacist today, tomorrow, someone's
Mhm.
sick, someone's going on holidays, put a shift up. We've been known to fill it within a minute, given the size and scale of the
Oh, right.
locum network. It's about 2,500 locums across Australia now use the platform, and most of the big brands going overseas into the US and impacting other markets. So the product is the sole delivery of the business model in that instance, or the
Mhm.
product supports an operation. So just really varied in terms of the type of work we do.
So when a client comes to you now, this relates back to a point you touched on earlier. Client
Mhm.
comes to you, they have
Yes.
ideas, dreams, and concepts
Mm.
of what they want and what they need, but this has to be translated into
Mm.
technical specifications and brought into the world
Mm.
of reality. So
Yes.
I think you mentioned the DevReady program is the way you
Mhm.
sift through this to figure out what's real,
Mm.
what's not, and how to do this.
Yeah, so DevReady came about, like I said, 10, 11 years ago when we had that SLAW challenge within a project. That wasn't called a challenge. The software got delivered, but it's more it didn't hit the ground running and got limited traction. So it was more, okay, how do we support to not over engineer, because we can over engineer a product quite effectively. Scope can keep expanding. How do we keep it to a minimum? There's no guarantees in anything, but it's just how do we say, because we can build $1 million product, or we can build $100,000 product, which is the starting point of a solution. And so DevReady is all about just sifting through, de-risking the project in terms of scope that's critical. Scope, in my mind, is one of the biggest issues in software. They can expand and evolve, especially
Yep.
too much in the early MVP before it hits or users see it. The quicker we can get in front of users, the better we are in terms of feedback, evolution of products. And then from DevReady, it's all about getting clarity between key stakeholders in terms of what will work or what can work. And then how do we translate that so developers can pick it up and actually implement it? There can be a gap between business and technology, and DevReady is the bridge to divide that gap really and close that communication barrier down to we can visualize the app, we can click through it, we can see it. So business stakeholders can understand and actually view what's coming and give feedback on that. And then we can document out features and functions which turn into actual specific tasks in terms of how we develop it for development team, QA, etc. So it is a bridge between business and technology, and that's how we see it and continue to evolve it over time.
Right. Okay. So it takes the dreams and puts it into some kind of reality of what they can expect.
Yeah, it's clearing out the expectations. That's a good analogy into how we describe it. So, yes, it's what are the expectations from all parties, and what are we actually going to visualize at the end of this, and not really open up the curtain at the end of the project and say, "Here you go, Nigel. Here's your product," and you say, "That is not what I expected," and that's a lot of what technology can be. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's really how do we just make it clear as much as we can in the early days before anyone starts writing code.
Right. Okay. And if you had a choice, say, between
Mm,
two projects, okay, one had the
sure.
potential to deliver 20% more profit, but the other
Mhm,
project provided more of a challenge and the ability to spread your creative and technical wings.
mhm.
Which one will you choose?
For me personally, it's always going to be the creative, innovative angle. But others in the business, it's different. So if you speak to Anthony, my co-founder, he doesn't play in that world as much. He prefers that, yeah, be able to pull it apart or optimize or automate. So, as a business, we track across both because you need to. The creative spreading wings, we do quite a bit of that in the world of startup, scale up offerings. We find that mid tier markets are generally in the other bracket. So, for me, projects I'm more involved in and consult in and product manage are more the bigger opportunities where we see innovation and creativity, and others in the business just love the improving in efficiency. So just really varies depending on.
Okay, Andrew. Now we're talking about the creative versus technical aspect of what you do. So
Mhm.
I believe you said you had about 50 people at Arian at the moment.
Yeah, we do.
So
Yep.
how do you balance that between getting the right balance of
Mhm.
creative and technical? So like, and who would be your ideal employee? But what do you look at?
Yeah, so it depends on the role, right? So in a, a product management setting, it's you need creativity, you need innovation and thinking. In a project management role, you need to be able to ensure that we're managing and tracking outcomes and probably a bit more specific. There's actually a tool that I've used quite a bit in the past, which is called Wealth Dynamics, Talent Dynamics, in terms of
Okay.
understanding the type of people we're bringing into an organization. I found that really good. It's gives you a bit of leverage, understanding really where people sit. So, for example, um, I sit more in that creator star where I would basically be more creative and have a conversation, easy
Mhm.
flow. Anthony sits more on the mechanic lens, which means he's really good at process and defining process. We have Newton, who runs our team in Nepal, who sits in a supporting aspect. Really great for managing people, connecting, but don't give him a bunch of tasks to do because he will drop all of them. So everyone's
Yeah.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
There's in technology, in that framework, we've got some people in DevOps and managing a lot of really heavy lifting stuff, and people like that are really lords. They don't build process, but they'll follow it to the nth degree. Really good for people to look at. So talent dynamics, wealth dynamics, so we use it across the business quite a bit, and
Okay.
depending on the type of role, we would utilize that to who we're attracting, really.
Okay, so that was
Mm.
talent dynamics, wealth dynamics. Was that correct?
Yeah, there's a bit of a mixture. So the wealth dynamics is more focused on business owners, founders, people in leadership. Talent
Hmm.
goes more to people across the business. So definitely something that I find really good value out of.
Okay, great. Now, we spoke about AI earlier on.
Mm.
I've actually gone to AI and
Mhm.
asked it, what is the one question I should ask you? So I got the
Fascinating.
information
Like to
about
hear
yourself.
what AI's got to say.
Okay. So here it is. What's the most unexpected leadership lesson you've learned while scaling Arian, and how has it changed the way you lead today?
Okay. Unexpected leadership lesson. I think you're always getting lessons across leadership and how we manage. What I've realized is a small business is easy to manage. We started off with a group of 10 people. There was a bit less at the time, actually. We started with 5 or 6 in a little office, and you could see what everyone was doing, and we could manage and understand where we're going. That moves to 10 to 15 in an office in Melbourne. In Essendon, we were effectively working at it for years. The advantage in that setting was still, again, we're all hands on, we're all in a room. Come COVID, the business model shifted. We started an offshore model, so we now have an offshore team with 40 people offshore, 10 in Oz. I think the biggest leadership lesson as a business is growing is process, and checks and balances must be in place.
Right.
When you drop a check and a balance or a process, if there's a gap, that's when things blow up quite quickly. And we've seen that in projects where they go off the rails because these things have not been followed, or there's not enough process to support growing teams. So, the biggest lesson is, from my perspective, is plan processes ahead and structures ahead of growth. We've learnt that over the journey that sets us up for better success and less problems, because the reality is you're always going to have a problem in business. Or a challenge that gets thrown
Yeah.
at you, or an unexpected thing, or you'll have people, especially as business grows, that are trying to hide or maybe not producing the outcomes you'd expect. It's more about how quickly can you pick these up? How quickly can we actually understand problems and issues within a project? In a recent project we had, in over Christmas, it sort of started, and we had a challenge. The handover was pretty rough during the Christmas period. We've got team offshore, and it got off to a slow, rough ride at the beginning because of that. Yeah, so the lesson learned, and you learn lessons. Probably don't begin a project on the 16th of December, when the core people that did a handover are probably starting to wrap up and get away. So we learn
Yeah.
a lesson again, and you're always learning lessons, and there's no perfection. But I think, from my perspective, process, systemize as much as you can, and build tools and technology, or utilize tools and technology to pick these things up quickly. That's, yeah, probably my biggest lessons in growing a business.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, Andrew, look, that's all for today. That's all I wanted to cover off. So, look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, and thank you very much for telling your story. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel. Appreciate you coming on, having me come on. I said coming on because I'm used to hosting a podcast. If you want to check out the DevReady podcast, we've got about 270 plus episodes where I and Anthony hosts on our own, interviewing founders, people in business that are really building tech, and the lessons learnt. And it's a good give back to the community. So if anyone wants to check that out, and also want to find more about us, just check us out at aerion.com.au. But thank you, Nigel. Appreciate the time, and thanks for having me on.
No problems, and good luck with Erin and with the podcast. We'll have the name of the podcast down here so people can go through and have a listen as well.
Yeah, cheers, Nigel. Thanks, mate.
Okay, thank you. So that's it for today's episode of the Priority Lane. Make sure you tune in next week for the next edition. Thank you.
This episode is sponsored by My Brokers app, a white label app built specifically for financial advisors and wealth management professionals. If you want to know how you can have your own app exclusively for your business and your clients up and running by this time next week, visit mybrokers.app or download the free My Brokers demo app from your favorite app store.